What's up, guys? It's DBLNicks, aka 2.0, aka Bubblegum Rapper to all my baby mamas. Anyway, on today's episode of Real Deal Property Sharks, we're going to discuss the rich history of this beautiful state I call home. You may know it as Florida. So without further ado, let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go. So let's start out by saying that Florida was originally founded by a man named Ponce de Leon in 1513. Now, Leon actually named it Florida after a Spanish Easter celebration called Pascua Florida, which actually translates to the Feast of Flowers. Now, people in the 1800s actually came down to Florida to escape the harsh winters in the northern states, kind of like we do now because, hey, it's cold. Now, by 1845, Florida actually obtained statehood in the United States. And in fact, by the 1900s, Florida's best industry was tourism, and it still is to this day. So let's get into some fun facts about Florida. Now, did you know that 80% of America's oranges and grapefruits are grown down here in Florida? That's insane! No wonder the orange juice is so delicious down here. Now, another interesting thing about Florida is that it's home to the most visited recreational facility in the world. You might know it as Walt Disney World, located in Orlando. Now, Walt Disney World is over 30,000 acres in size, which is about the same size as San Francisco, and it attracts over 46 million visitors per year. Another interesting fact about Florida is that the first European settlement in the United States of America was actually in St. Augustine, Florida, which was established in 1565. Now, here's a tip when visiting or living in Florida. It's always important to wear your sunscreen. Thank God for sunscreen, because the man who invented it was actually a pharmacist in Miami named Benjamin Green, who dubbed it copper tone, and he made it to protect himself and other soldiers during World War II. You don't want to get sunburn. It gives you rashes. I once got one on my tush. Be careful. Now, one of Florida's most historic moments was when John Glenn, an American astronaut, blasted off from Cape Canaveral, Florida on February 20th, 1962, and became the first man to orbit the Earth in space. And speaking of space, let's talk about the Apollo 11 moon mission, which allowed Neil Armstrong to become the first man to walk on the moon, which was launched from the nearby Kennedy Space Center in 1969. Florida has many amazing places to visit like Miami and Orlando. And in fact, I'm going to get into some history on all that. I'm going to drop some knowledge on you guys. Let's get right into it. So let's start off by discussing the history and fun facts about Miami. Now, many people may not know this, but Miami actually got its name from a Native American tribe that lived there in the 15 and 1600s called the Miamis. Now, believe it or not, Miami is the first and only U.S. city to have been founded by a woman, and that woman's name was Julia Tuttle. Julia Tuttle was an American businesswoman who owned the property upon which Miami was built, and after using the inheritance money from her parents to buy 640 acres of land from a man named James Egan, Tuttle would eventually become known as the Mother of Miami. Now, this was a lifelong aspiration of Tuttle's. She wanted to make the city of Miami a reality, but in order to do that, she needed a railway as a mode of transportation. Tuttle decided to take a trip down to St. Augustine, Florida, where she met a man named Henry Flagler. Now, Henry Flagler was an American business tycoon who founded Standard Oil and would go on to create the Florida East Coast Railway and became known as the father of Miami and Palm Beach, Florida. Then, the Great Freeze of 1894 to 1895 occurred, and afterwards Tuttle and Flagler entered an agreement which, in 1896, resulted in the creation of a major hotel and railroad station on the 640 acres of land owned by Tuttle, and on July 28, 1896, the city of Miami was incorporated. And in honor of Tuttle's legacy, her name was actually given to a causeway that crosses over the beautiful Biscayne Bay called the Julia Tuttle Causeway. Now, let's get into some fun facts about Miami. Miami is home to the largest collection of Art Deco architecture, which can be seen in South Beach, located in Miami Beach. Now, Miami was once a mangrove swamp and was mostly man-made. Many of Miami's beaches actually need to be replenished with sand regularly. In fact, Miami is nicknamed the $1 billion sandbar due to all the money put in to make the man-made islands, and is the southernmost major city in the continental United States. Now let's discuss the history and fun facts about Orlando. Now, before it was called Orlando, it was referred to as the town of Jernigan, which was named after a prominent family who were early settlers in the area before being founded by Thomas Gilbert Lee. Orlando was eventually incorporated in 1875 with a population of 85 people. Orlando is dubbed the Land of Many Lakes due to there being over 100 lakes over there. One of the most famous and prominent lakes is Lake Eola, which can be found in a beautiful park and is in fact a sinkhole with its deepest depth being over 80 feet deep. Now, nobody truly knows how Orlando was given its name, but many people have different theories and speculations. The first theory is that a politician by the name of Judge Spear named Orlando after a man who worked for him. Others believe that Spear named Orlando after a character in a Shakespearean play called As You Like It. Another theory is that an ox herdsman named Mr. Orlando died in the area while traveling to Tampa, and since he was buried there, the locals referred to the area as, quote, "There lies Orlando." Some believe Orlando was named after a Seminole war hero named Orlando Reeves, who warned and saved troops from an impending attack and was buried on the south side of Lake Eola, which is now known as downtown Orlando. Another theory is that there was a sugar farmer named Orlando Reeves who lived north of the land that would eventually become Orlando, and he carved his name into a tree near what is now Lake Eola, and future settlers would come to think that it was a grave marker and began referring to it as, quote, Orlando's grave, or just plain old Orlando as we know it today. In the mid to late 1800s, Orlando became a hub for the citrus industry until the Great Freeze of 1894 and 1895. However, by the early 1920s, its population started to grow due to the land and tourist boom at the time. By the 1940s and 50s, the population grew even more because of the World War II activity taking place at the McCoy Air Force Base. After World War II, some of the soldiers that were stationed at the Air Force Base chose to stay in Orlando even after their military commission was finished. Now, one of the most historic events that took place in Orlando took place in the 1960s when construction of Walt Disney World began. Now, when their doors opened in 1971, that caused tourism and the population to explode tremendously in Orlando, and it still continues to this very day. Walt Disney World became the world's most visited recreational resort, but the interesting thing about it is that people say it's in Orlando, but it's actually 20 minutes west of Orlando in Kissimmee. Nowadays, Orlando has more theme parks and entertainment parks than anywhere else in the world. And the McCoy Air Force Base became the enormous Orlando International Airport that we know today, with tourism being one of the leading industries that makes up Florida. Florida has so many amazing cities in addition to Miami and Orlando, but those two are two of the best cities out of all of them. Alright, ladies and gents, thank you so much for watching another amazing episode of Real Deal Property Sharks, where we discuss the two famous cities in beautiful sunny Florida. Now, on behalf of my two lovely co-hosts, Coach Nick and lovely Deborah Face Your Face for Real Estate, we hope you enjoyed the show. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next episode, and we're out. Peace! Bye-bye.